So 1320 at the field of Vauchamps. The French decided not to charge any cavalry, so they moved straight into the movement phase. Starting south of the field, the guard cavalry is maintaining their position there. The ground condition rolls were pretty good for the French this turn. They were able to move up that horse battery, try to take some shots at those squares, move skirmishers up opposite this line of the coalition, and got their guns a little bit further here for the 7th Division, but the 6th Corps guns were able to move up pretty close. Shifting across north of the road, the heavy cavalry is taking up station while the light is trying to run across the stream there, potentially get around the flank and in the rear. The dearth of coalition cavalry is going to make that a challenge for them to counter. So now we'll move into the defensive fire phase. For the most part, the French relied on getting their guns a little closer, keeping out of contact, so really all they have here is this one reserve battalion facing that French line battalion. So throwing the dice, a nice low roll, just what the coalition needed. So they weren't able to cause any casualties there. Now they're going to have to face the onslaught of the French. Really our cannonades that are going to open up here in a moment. So our one and only shot for the coalition will bring us to the French fire phase. So we moved up this gun strictly to shoot at these squares. So we're going to fire those guns right here at that square. They are at 2 hexes, so there'll be 11. And units in square are a 4. So at a 2.5 to 1, we roll a 55, and that causes a casualty. Now they are in squares, so they are not immune to the morale check, but they just have better modifiers for being in squares. So they do pass their odd number increment morale check. Now we'll move on. We will fire the French. They have skirmishers and line infantry. We're going to take a couple shots right here at that battalion. Let's see, I believe that is 4, so not quite enough for a casualty. Two dice rolls that just didn't quite get there. Do another shot here. Just a little too low. So the French are getting closer, but not getting any casualties yet. Now we have the French artillery right here. I think we will take one shot at the Russian Jaegers, take another shot here at the Russian line infantry. That would be effectively, that would be a 1-to-1 attack, and we just did not make the dice. So along the line here, we see the French are not having the effect that they wanted to have. We'll go north of the line, and we'll north of the road, and we'll see basically one more fire attack. So our last shot is these cavalry guns here, going to fire on that Russian, I think that's a regiment. Boy, another really low number. So very ineffective fire attacks. The French are not going to initiate any melees. So that'll be a quick turn here for the French. We only have one unit we need to try to rally. We'll see if we can get him going. This routed French battalion here. I believe he is the 7th Corps, or 7th Division rather. His morale is a 31. We are routed and we have 50% losses, which is combined minus 12 to the dice. And we rolled a 54, so he just passes. Oh, wait a minute. And I forgot the morale level. And for the French, on morale level 1, that's a minus 4, so I think that's going to fail the morale check. See, those morale levels are important. So now, except for routing this guy further to the rear, that'll be the end of the French turn. Now for the coalition, we're going to see 2 grave threats. One here, north, coming across that stream trying to get on our flank. And the other, south, a big Imperial Guard Cavalry Division. So we have positioned what there is of our cavalry to the south here. We have two regiments right here and 2 more right here. We only have 3 regiments here, some lancers and 2 heavy cavalry units. It gets difficult chasing back and forth to try to counter. Another option is to maybe just charge them, go on the attack and try to make the French counter. We just don't have the numbers for it. If we lose those guys in a charge, those French light cavalry are going to sweep behind us and cut us to bits. So we're not going to charge, we're just going to shift to try to counter that oncoming cavalry. So after the coalition movement phase, we see they're getting crushed by the ground condition rolls. They just aren't able to move. They keep rolling high numbers, which limits their movement so much that they're barely able to shuffle their line. They pulled back the Prussian 7th Reserve a little bit. They managed to escape any damage from opportunity fire. The 9th Corps, they just cannot get those guns limber. Turn after turn, they will not limber. So they move the Corps commander up there and give it a shot, exposing himself. Maybe next turn. Very poor roll, the worst, for the 12th Brigade here, meaning we were basically unable to reposition any cavalry in any meaningful way. The same goes on the right. We were trying to get the remnants of the 11th Brigade Hussars to run across the road, and they just did not move. So we will take a look at the field. I don't see any places where the French are in contact, so there won't be any defensive fire phase. Largely we have a couple of long distance artillery shots, and that's about it. So we'll take a look at a couple of these shots here. These aren't especially good shots. We have the Russian reserve artillery, or Prussian reserve artillery that can fire those skirmishers. It's pointless to do any counter battery fire. We have a little bit of horse artillery we could fire away in the distance. We have the lancers moving away there. So 2 pretty crummy shots. We'll just throw the dice quickly. Now and wouldn't you know it, a crummy shot way at the edge of his range, literally at the edge of his range, a 7, and his dice are a 65. So that means, just moving up here, those lancers would take their first casualty. See, they shouldn't have moved in front of those guns, even at a long distance. On the plus side, they had a nice morale roll, so they passed any morale checks. Since we didn't engage here, we're not going to have any melees. There's going to be another kind of weak turn. Guys just trying to get into position because we know what's coming next. So we'll try to rally those two guys. On the second one here, yeah, we're going to rally them. We rolled a 61, and that's plenty to recover his morale. Otherwise, we can retreat that battalion, or probably barely a remnant of a battalion, and we'll recap the turn. So another turn largely of maneuver. The French tried to get some guns up on the south side here, try to put some pressure on the squares, so the coalition pulled their squares back. Coalition was unable to really make a good retrograde movement this turn, so they're still exposed to the growing French gun line here. Marshal Marmont there has not been able to establish a nice big battery. As soon as he can get in place, he'll be able to start bringing his rather considerable artillery bonus to bear. The big event was the French trying to steal their way across the stream and get on the flank of the coalition position. This could potentially be pretty havoc-inducing, given that the coalition just does not have the cavalry to counter that. And we're coming up on the 1:40 turn, and that means the Emperor and the Guard will be arriving.